Small intestine 13 is located in a depression superior to the medial end of the spine of the scapula. It's about 1 cm medial and slightly inferior to small intestine 12. Palpate along the superior border of the spine of scapula until you find a nice dip at its medial end. Be careful that you don't palpate too far, because you will fall off the scapula and find another dip, but it's not small intestine 13.
Lung 2 is in the centre of the delta pectoral triangle. To find the delta pectoral triangle, find the inferior border of the clavicle, the superior border of pectoralis major, and the medial border of the deltoid. Just in the centre of that triangle. Stomach 13 is on the inferior border of the clavicle, 4 cm lateral from the midline. Stomach 14 is in the first intercostal space, 4 cm lateral from the midline. Kidney 26 is in the first intercostal space, 2 cm lateral to the midline. Kidney 25 is in the second intercostal space, 2 cm lateral from the midline. Ren 21 is on the anterior midline at the manubrium, midway between Ren 22 and Ren 20. Ren 19 is on the anterior midline, level with the second intercostal space. Ren 16 is on the midline at the xiphisternal junction. Spleen 17 is in the fifth intercostal space, 6 cm lateral to the midline. To find the 6 cm, find the midline, the lateral extremity of the acromion, which is 8 cm, and divide that down to find your 6 cm, and pop your point in the fifth intercostal space at the root of the breast. Spleen 18 is in the fourth intercostal space, 6 cm lateral to the midline.
Gallbladder 10 is located about 1/3 of the distance of the curved line joining gallbladder 9 to gallbladder 12. Small intestine 16 is located on the lateral aspect of the neck on a contour with a laryngeal prominence. It's on the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. To find the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, have the person turn their head against resistance. You should then be able to palpate down the posterior border of the sternal body of the sternocleidomastoid. Have them relax their neck to find this point. It's posterior to large intestine 18. Small intestine 16. Small intestine 17 is located on the side of the neck, in between the sternocleidomastoid and the angle of the mandible. Palpate along the posterior and inferior borders of that mandible to make sure that you find the point where it changes direction. Don't just rely on where the flesh is changing direction. You need to be sure that you've actually found the angle. Mark your point in between the sternocleidomastoid and the angle of the mandible. It's in a nice depression. It's not on bone, it's not on muscle. It's in a depression in between the two.
Large intestine 4, you're going to find the length of the second metacarpal bone. So running your finger down, finding the base, making sure that you're not actually on the carpal bones themselves, finding the midpoint of that shaft of bone, coming between the first and second metacarpals, nearer to the second than the first in the muscle. So moving from large intestine 2 to large intestine 3, over the head of the second metacarpal joint into a significant depression. Again, the hand should be loosely flexed, so in a loose fist, and you should fall into that point.
Kidney 3 is located in the medial aspect of the ankle. It's on a level with the prominence of the medial malleolus in between the posterior border of the malleolus and the anterior border of the Achilles tendon, the tendocalcaneus. Palpate for the deepest dip and mark your kidney 3 there. Liver 2 is located half a cent proximal from the edge of the web margin between the first and second toe. Gallbladder 40 is located approximately at the junction of the line drawn along the anterior and inferior border of the lateral malleolus. It's important to articulate the foot and feel for a nice depression here. Mark your point in the deepest part of that hollow.